Now, how will love for God and love from God able to help us overcome fear, cast out fear, and find the freedom of fear? We're going to look at this particular verse, Luke chapter 14, verse 26. This is a difficult verse, and we're going to run through this verse in 3 versions, and I think it should help us understand this verse better. Luke chapter 14, verse 26, NIV. If anyone comes to me, these are the words of Jesus, if anyone comes to me and does not hate their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. Whoa, we are supposed to hate ourselves if we want to be the disciple of Jesus. Now, the contemporary English version render this verse in this way. You cannot be my disciples, Jesus said. You cannot follow me unless you love me more than you love your own life. And Eugene Peterson throw more light into this verse when he says, anyone who comes to me but refuses to let go one's own self or one's own life, that person cannot be my disciple. So this verse in Luke chapter 14 is in the context of discipleship, and Jesus Christ laid out the demands or the requirement for discipleship. That means there is an undivided, a supreme love for God. And this supreme love of God which is required is so strong that by comparison, the love we have for another person, for other people, by comparison, that love seems like hatred. This is what it means. So the scripture does not provoke self-hate. The Bible does not provoke self-destruction. The passion for life is not negated in the scripture. In fact, in the book of Acts, Paul says, for we live in God, we have our life in God, and we move in God, and we have our being in God. God created us. So this scripture that we read just now does not say that we should destroy ourselves or we should hate ourselves. But rather from this scripture, we learn something. We are going to look at Philippians chapter 1, the words of Paul. For me to live is Christ, meaning if I live, it will be for Christ. And if I die, I will gain even more. For dying is even better. Now, Paul understood what Luke said earlier, text earlier. And from that understanding, he says and he boldly declared, for me to live is Christ, to die is gain. So essentially, we are saying that suffering, pain, sickness, death, these things will not be a fear factor in our life when we love God more than our own life. I'd like to share a small little testimony with you here. Some of you know that more than a year ago, in fact, end of 2018, I suffered from a terrible eye condition. There was extreme pain in this part of my face, where the right eye is, and subsequently my right eye turned inward and I had double vision. From tests and hospital tests, I found out that there was a tumor, there was a growth right behind my eyeball, and that growth caused the pain. I went through a series of tests to rule out cancer, because That was a possibility. And then another doctor, I went to another doctor, and another doctor says that we're not sure, but if this grows aggressively, it's going to push your eyeball out of that eye socket. Yeah, almost your eye will be like a goldfish eye. Some goldfish have their eye outside, hanging outside. Yeah. So it was a very terrible time. Yeah, for 3 months I was on steroids and painkiller. But I say with great thanks to God and with great humility, over that period of time and until now, I have never lost one night of sleep due to worry or fear. Why is it so? Because I've learned to love God more than my life. So suffering, pain, and sickness and death will not be a fear factor in us when we love God more than our own life. Paul says, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. So essentially, if Paul faces a death situation, if Paul faces a sure die situation, he will not say, I have some Chinese word up there in my slide, he will not say 最多嘛死咯. The word 最多嘛死咯 in Cantonese, if I translate into English, it means the worst case scenario is to die. So if we say that the worst case scenario is to die, it's actually a very negative way of looking at things. So Paul won't say that. Paul says, for me to live, it will be Christ, to die is gain. So if Paul faces a death situation, he will say, 最好就死咯. That means not the worst case scenario, the best case scenario is actually death. Because for Paul, to die is gain. So if we have this kind of supreme love, this kind of undivided love for God, we will definitely overcome the fear for our life. No pain, no disruption, no sickness, no death will be a fear factor in our life when we love God more than we love our own life.